Greetings everybody, Brother Dan Goodwin here, your host, God's Final Jubilee program. We're coming live, or at least on Facebook, and those of you on YouTube, we're coming from Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. I have a special guest here with me, and I'm going to introduce him. But we're here doing interviews at Crossing News. I was there all day today. This is, what is this, brother, the 18th? This is the 18th of December. And I did interviews all day at Crossing News. Some good, exciting stuff that you all are going to enjoy when them come out. But I have with me a special guest, Dr. Charles Hiltibidal. Did I get that right?
That's right.
And this is a good friend that we met probably a year ago or something like that. Our paths crossed, and he's my kind of guy. He's an old-fashioned, Bible-believing, Bible-thumping guy, and I like him. And I've actually brought him here. He's going to do some interviews with me tomorrow at Crossing News, so you can be watching for that in the near future. In fact, brother, you're setting a record here. I don't think they've ever had a guy where they interviewed him and then had him on right away just a few days later. His first program is airing the week of Christmas. So is that next week?
That's
next week. So we're doing at least two programs with him. You never know, we might stick another one in, but I think we're doing two. So the week of Christmas and possibly the week of New Year's, unless it could get bumped a week in there. But so you're going to want to hear him, because we're going to do a full half-hour show on Crossing News. Tonight we're just going to take a few minutes and just first of all, Dr. Hiltibidal, tell the audience who you are, a little bit about yourself.
Well, I've been in the ministry over 55 years and pastored about 37 or almost 38 years. Just been involved with science in the Bible. I'm on the board of directors of Creation Evidences Foundation in Glen Rose, Texas, and through that I've been a part of a lot of archaeological digs, and several of them in Israel. And through that, over the last a little over 30 years, I've done a lot of extensive research on the subject of the Christmas story.
Yeah, and that's what we're going to talk about tonight and tomorrow on Crossing News. He's got some fabulous stuff. I listened to these on the way up here in my car. This is it. It's called Truths of Christmas. Hopefully you guys can see that. I'll try to get the glare off it. Truths of Christmas. This is a CD set that you play in your CD player. There are 3 of them, probably 40 minutes each or something like that.
Maybe a little more.
Okay. And so I listened to them in the car, and I enjoyed it. And good quality. Starts off with an introduction, and I was a little jealous. I liked it. And so I liked it. And so three CD discs, and it's all interesting stuff about Christmas, the Christmas story, and a whole bunch of stuff that we've got wrong all these years, traditions that we believe. Some stuff about the wise men, the stuff about the innkeeper, and we'll hit on that in a second here. But I actually wrote notes while I was driving. Don't tell anybody, but I got notes questions that I wanted to ask him.
That's better than my writing without driving.
Yeah, well, anyway, so I've got some things here to discuss, but I don't know if we really need that tonight. But tell us a little bit about what are on these. I know you spent years, I think you said that as you was a pastor, every year you did a different...
For 28 years, I preached a different complete series.
For Christmas.
4-part series every Christmas. And
okay.
In order to do that, it takes a lot of research.
Yeah.
And I'm not one to just take another sermon and just work it over. They were distinct new series.
Yeah.
So over the years, I've been able to archaeological discoveries and rabbinical writings, historical documentation out of the Roman archives, ancient writings of preachers from the 3rd and 4th centuries, rewriting something from the 1st century writers, and been able to get some insight and some understanding about unbelievable truths of the Christmas story.
All right, and it showed. I'm telling you, I've been doing this a long time, and I learned a lot of things that I didn't know. And,
thank you.
You know, none of us gets it all.
Oh,
I mean, no doubt about that.
Way.
And I listened to that, and I'm telling you, the thing about the inn. I never heard that in my life.
Oh my!
And we'll get to that in a second here, but first of all, just so we don't forget, I'd like to tell, because I don't have these on my website. I've got so many of my books I want to make sure the folks know how to get this.
Okay.
So tell them how much it is and where they can get it.
Our website is wttministries.com. wttministries.com. That's for Walk Through Time Ministries. We started in 2012 taking churches from Genesis through Revelation in what we call a walk through time. From eternity
kind of like a
past
survey from Genesis 1 to the end.
Following the redemption plan, and in each era and section, the devil's attack on each of those areas. And blends prophecy, Bible and science, archaeological discoveries.
If you go to a church, how long does it take? How many?
I start Sunday school through Wednesday night, 6 sessions.
All right, so if anybody's a pastor or you'd like to tell your pastor about it, I'll tell you what, I'd love to have that. If I was a pastor, I'd want to bring that in.
One preacher said here a while back, he said after the series was over, he asked how many went to Bible college, and about 8 different men raised their hands. And he said, I don't know about you, but I'm going to ask for my money back. And then another pastor said, well, it's kind of like putting color to the black and white pages of the Bible.
Yeah.
And it's all about redemption, all about our Savior.
And as I understand, we talked earlier, that's not in anything.
I don't have it yet. It's a little different everywhere I go because church people are different, and so I just let the Lord lead me.
So Dr. Hiltibidal is an evangelist. You can contact him through his website.
Yes.
What is that again?
wttministries.com.
Okay, and you can get a hold of him, and if you'd like to have one of those series done at your church, that would be that would be neat. And I'll try to post on the YouTube page. I'll try to post that website on there, so folks that are watching on YouTube will be able to see that. Now that's different than the CDs we're talking about. That's
completely different.
That's a different session altogether. That's Genesis 1 to Revelation 22.
Right. In the first session of that is the week of creation, and I've been involved for 36 years with science in the Bible, and so I bring a lot of information about creation. Yeah. Then the second session is the antediluvian world and the flood of Noah, the building of the ark, and we've had several teams from our museum on ARAT in that, but that's for another story. Then the third one is all about Nimrod's world, and then the fourth session is from Abraham to the birth of Christ.
Wow! Then so 4 sessions, you're just barely getting out of Genesis.
That's right, because it's the foundation of the Bible.
You know, Isaiah 46:10, he telleth the end from the beginning. Genesis is so important.
Yeah. And then on Tuesday night, it's the church age, filled with history, prophecy fulfilled, prophecy future. Then at the end of that, I bring Israel back into the picture, because when the church is out here, then here's Israel again. And then the last session is a walk into prophecy through the book of Revelation into eternity beyond.
How do you do that last one in one session? What do you stay there, about 4 hours?
Wow. No, we just hit the high points.
That sounds like
it together.
An interesting. I love series. I'm an evangelist. I've done a lot of series. Yes. I love to go to. I tell the pastor, look, you let me come for multi days, I can help you.
That's right.
And you can build on everything each day. And, man. Well, that's exciting. Now the CD set is the truths of Christmas. Now it's not just for Christmas.
No,
but it sure is nice at Christmas, because it's about the Christmas story. Give the folks a few tidbits, like the inn and the wise men and things.
Well, the first CD is on who's Joseph and Mary and who is some of their relatives. In the 27 Talmud, that's the rabbinical histories of the Jewish nation. And so in the 27 Talmud, the Sanhedrin commissioned Gamaliel to go and find out about this young ministry of Jesus as it was just starting.
Yeah.
Now 27, you need to understand that might not be the actual year, because calendars are all over the place for about a 8-year different span. Yeah. And so Gamaliel sat down with Mary, and it has a record of her giving an account of what happened. He also then goes and talks to Melcher, who was the chief shepherd over the Paschal lambs, and he gives the account of the shepherds coming in and giving basically the same story that you have in the book of Luke chapter 2.
Yeah.
And then the second one is also in that first one is the taxation that brought Joseph and Mary at the right time for the birth of Christ.
And I found, as I listened to these, and I thought it was mainly on the second disc, I could be wrong,
Yeah.
I found that you had taxes, it seemed like a whole bunch of stuff about taxes.
Oh yeah.
But it was interesting. And we were joking earlier, boy, not much has changed in 2,000 years.
No, if a government wants to get some money, they just add another tax. And that's what the Romans did. They were bankrupt. They'd had a 20-year battle with the Gauls, and they were bankrupt. So they decided to move their census up a couple of years and spread it out over 3 years and add an extra tax to it. And they decided, hey, this would be a good time to see how many people of what their descent is that is under the Roman Empire. And so the Bible said when Cyrenius was governor, if you look close in your Bible, it's in quotations. And that helps you understand that our translators helped us understand, hey, this is how you can go to extra biblical things, and you can find when Cyrenius was governor. And you'll find the second time he was governor was from 9 to 5 BC. And so so the taxation was set up so that you had 1 week to pay it. You couldn't pay it where you lived. You had to go to your
where you was born or whatever.
So when they got to David's family land, because this is 1,000 years after David.
Yeah.
And so you can imagine how many people had to show up at Bethlehem in a 1 week period of time to pay that tax. So when Joseph and Mary get there are hundreds and hundreds of people out. She needs a private place to have.
And this is where they met the innkeeper.
Well, there is no innkeeper. There's no innkeepers in the Bible.
No, I never heard this in my life till I listened to your CD.
No, there's no innkeepers in the Bible.
So tell us, first of all, what he's saying, the fact that Cyrenius brought on this tax.
Yes.
That's what got Joseph and Mary to the right place at the right time to fulfill prophecy.
Cyrenius, the governor of Syria, had 4 tetrarchs. King Herod was one of those tetrarchs. And he divided his into 15 districts. Each district had a week period of time to pay. Now you got to understand, the entire Roman Empire is involved. They weren't going to trust you to bring the money to them. No. They had their people doing the circuit through all of that. So that 1 week period of time just so happened, I guess, to fall on the week when Mary had to have a baby. Yeah. No, I'm sure God had something to do with this. So the taxation was one of the ways God used. Well, the book of Psalms said that the hearts of the kings are in the hand of God like the rivers of water, turning them whithersoever He will. And so that's what got them there at that time. And there, if you were standing at the city gates, Dan, I could walk about 65 yards this direction to my left. If I was standing there facing south, I'd go this way and I find the well of David. Remember David said, oh, one would give me a drink of the water. Yeah. Well, that well's still there. They still water their flocks every day. I drunk water out of it. I'm not so sure why he thought it was so good, but anyway.
Is that how your hair got
yeah, that's how my hair got white. And then, but if I left those city gates and I went that direction, southwest, I would come to Boaz's threshing floor in about 90 yards.
Wow.
And at the corner of Boaz's threshing floor is the storage inn. There's no innkeepers in your Bible.
Okay, now we're getting into the inn here.
The storage inn, you could sleep probably 8-10 people in it.
So it's a place to get out of the weather for the shepherds mainly.
Well, no, when they were farming their crops, they would be out there, and if a rainstorm came up, they could get inside there. But at the end of the threshing floor, this is where the book of Ruth took place, right here. Because, remember, she's going to lay at the feet of Boaz?
Yeah.
Well, Boaz is laying across the opening of his storage inn, guarding his grain.
Yeah.
They had thrashed it out, winnowed it, sacked it up, stored it in the inn. And that's where Ruth lays at his feet. So, which, of course, is a wonderful story of the kinsman redeemer, Jesus to come.
Yeah. So an inn, in our mind, is a hotel, and we're expecting, and that's what we've all we're brought up believing.
Well, you were in Israel recently.
Yeah.
Did you look across the hillsides and see little holes all over them?
I didn't realize
those were the storage inns at everybody's threshing floors. That's where they stored their grain. And so when they got there, if you notice, even in your the King James Bible, it says the inn, because it was a specific inn. at Boaz's. By the way, there's a symbol about this big around, Dan. It's about 14 inches across. It's David's family crest, and it's still etched in the stone over the top of that storage inn. I've been there, done archaeological work there.
So when it says there's no room in the inn, explain what that means.
Well, everybody's camped out.
Because everyone's there to pay their taxes.
Everybody's there. They got 1 week to pay the tax.
So when there's no room in the inn, it means all these guys are already sacked out.
Everybody's sacked out everywhere, and the room's already taken up, and that 8 or 10 people. It would have been sufficient, but that's not where God said he'd be born.
Yeah.
And God said in Micah 4:8, "Under the old tower of the flock shall he come, even his first dominion." Well, if I'm
you think not only the city, you think biblically there was a specific spot where he was to be born.
Well, the Bible says in Micah 4:8, "Under the old tower of the flock shall it come, even his first dominion." And if I'm standing at the city gate, there's the well of David, there's Boaz's threshing floor, or if I go that direction straight, I go about 90 yards, and that's the tower of the flock. It's all right there. So all they had to do was go up the hill to the tower of the flock, which had plenty of room in it. After all, that's how the shepherds could find him. Because the angel said, "This shall be a sign unto you." Now, that sign would mean nothing to you if it wasn't something you could recognize.
Yeah.
It said, "This is the sign. You'll find the babe wrapped in swaddling cloths, lying in a manger." They did not run all over Bethlehem, knocking on any supposed innkeeper's door. Did you have a baby born out in the stables out back?
Well, you've ruined our Christmas story.
No, I'm making it real for you here. What happened was these shepherds were the sanctified shepherds. When David took the city of Jebus, and then he's going to buy Ornan's threshing floor, Arunai, whichever one of the names you want to use, he's going to build a new tabernacle. It'll also be the place where they're going to build the new temple. But God won't let him build the tabernacle. God lets him build a tabernacle. So what's happened up at Shiloh, from Shiloh, the Ark of the Covenant that got lost by Hophni and Phinehas, it's making its way around this way. The old ramshackle tabernacle from Shiloh that was destroyed, it's making its way. David brings them back together. You can read the story. And when he brings it back in, he slaughters all the sheep. You know the story, and the men that touched it, and God slayed them, you know. So he brought it all together. So what did he do? According to the 24th chapter of 1 Chronicles, he organized the courses by the 24 grandsons of Aaron. He also took a segment of the priesthood and made them sanctified shepherds. He changes the name of the Tower of Edor to the Tower of the Flock. You'll find that all the way back, because the Tower of Edor was right there beside the gates.
And this is where the sheep are coming from.
This is where the sheep
lambs
come. Because for 1,000 years, these shepherds, it is from their flocks that the paschal lambs of sacrifice is coming from. So when a ewe is ready to give birth, they bring that ewe out of the fields into the Tower of the Flock. And there the baby lamb is caught, and it's wiped off with swaddling
clothes. Yeah.
Then it's inspected in the inner chamber, and then it's wrapped. Its limbs are wrapped with swaddling cloths up to its face, set aside for the days, and then re-examined to make sure that there's no spot and blemish. So they knew where to find swaddling cloths, and they certainly knew where the manger was.
Now, the shepherds, the angel speaks to the shepherds, and they go, is that the shepherds you're talking about?
Yes.
Okay.
They are sanctified shepherds. They understand. When he says, "Unto you is born this day in the city of David a Savior," they knew, because they were taking care of the paschal lambs that was rolling forward, looking for that redemption coming.
Well, this needs to. I hope that the show we air, that we record tomorrow, this is exactly what. I wish we could just take this and.
Well, we'll do it, Lord willing.
This is the CD set that he has, and before we go, we are going to hit them wise men, because there's something interesting there. But he has this CD set. There's 3 discs in here, And give them the website again, because you can't get this on my website. But if you lose his, you can contact me. I'll get you in touch with him. But and we'll try to paste his website on my Facebook page. Give them the website again.
It's wttministries.com.
Okay. And how much is this thing on your website?
It's $18. Right. That covers shipping and handling.
Shipping and everything. Okay. Yeah. So that's great. And I think you folks ought to get this. This is good old-fashioned stuff, right out of the King James Bible without apology, and some good stuff. Before we go, because you drove all day to get here, I got here yesterday, and I want you to get some rest. So before you go, let's tell them a little bit about the three wise men that we always talk about. And the manger scene that's not correct.
I wonder how many really of our songs of Christmas are not even doctrinally correct.
We three kings of Orient.
Yeah, I know. Well, I love the song. There was three gifts.
Yeah.
I know of 4 historians. 2 of them was riding with a camel train. One was in Syria, Damascus, Syria, and the other was in Jerusalem. Now there's probably other accounts, but I know 4 I have. And basically, there would have been about 1,000 camels in the camel train. Well, you got to imagine, these are men. The word wise man in our Bible comes from magos or magi, which was a term that included certain professions, distinguished people. In other words, it wasn't just a certain, but it was a broad term. In other words, anybody that was a sheriff or a physician, a teacher, even astrologers of that day, that title. You would have had that title. And what most people don't understand is that we think of the Roman Empire being the only thing, because we view it all from the Bible and how Rome had an involvement over Israel. But here's what we need to understand. On the east side of the Roman Empire was 13 nations. China, India, and the nations over there. They were federated together in a loose connection. They're the ones who, under Zoroaster, who had been a student of Daniel, he had brought the Chaldean language and teaching, and he brought that over. They were studying the night skies because Daniel had said that heavens was going to announce God's appointed king.
So these people see the star and they know what it is.
They see the movement of the stars. What they really see is in the Aries, which according to astrology, and we know we're not to be in astrology, but God does use the heavenly instruments as signs. Yeah. Genesis 1:14. And so they were looking at astronomy is absolutely
and that's
okay.
What they were following, yeah.
And but 6 planets aligned in a 15-degree angle in Aries, and Jupiter, the king planet, passed through, and 9 months later passed through again. And it's only happened once in 6,000 years, and it was all set in order on day number 4 of creation. God said it. Right. And so they saw that. So they send their ambassadors with a special gift, because the heavens has announced that Belteshazzar, and you'll find it in their records, even in the Roman archives, because they're going to send an ambassador back to Rome after Herod killed all the kids, baby boys, because they thought he probably got killed. And they were going to come back in a war against them, because they had brought the gift of Ramses. Now I know we see it and worship from our standpoint, but worship means to prostrate oneself. What they were coming as representatives of 13 federated nations, they were bringing what's called the gift of Ramses, which Nebuchadnezzar gave first of all to Ramses the Great, saying, we've had a 20-year war, I recognize you as God's appointed king at the moment. It was also given to many of them. Alexander the Great, it was given to him, and various leaders through history. Gold, silver, or gold, frankincense, and myrrh. By the way, in the 60th chapter of the book of Isaiah, and there's dual prophecy. Sometimes a prophecy will be the first and second coming in the same verse. He even talks about, in verse 1 through 5, he talks about there's a time coming when there'll be a horde of dromedaries and camels come to Jerusalem. And in verse 1 he said the Gentiles will see the sign, see the light arising and come. It's all prophesied. Yeah. So it was a fulfillment prophecy. So the wise men were representatives of 13 federated nations, saying that when we give you this gift, we believe heaven has anointed you to be the king. When you become king, we're in subjection. You don't have to come and take us.
And they asked King Herod, where is he that is born king of the Jews?
Because they were looking for a king.
And you're pointing out that we get the three mixed up. There's three gifts.
Three gifts.
But not three wise men or three kings.
As a matter of fact, even in Isaiah chapter 60, he says that they will be bearing gold and incense, which is frankincense and myrrh.
Yeah.
So, I mean, all the prophecies of Christ's first coming just simply tells us everything's prophesied about his second coming is going to happen too.
Yeah. Well, there's so much more we could hit on, but
yes,
we'll cut her off here. I can't quite make out my timer up there, so I don't know how long we've been, but I guess we'll cut her off right there. And Dr. Charles Hiltibidal and his CD here that I would suggest, highly suggest you folks get, and then get it on his website, which is
wttministries.com.
All right, and I'll post that on the YouTube thing. I don't have that in my brain yet. I know mine, God'sFinalJubilee.com.
Amen.
But and by the way, I'm recommending this because I've listened to it, and I think it was very helpful. I learned a lot of things that I didn't know, and it was very exciting to listen to. And he's got some more stuff coming. He's got another book. We won't let the cat out of the bag yet, but he's got another book. I told him I like his title. It's a book I would buy if I saw it somewhere. I'd be thumbing through it to see what. So, and I already know a little bit that's in it. So he's got some more coming. He's a good friend and a good prophecy guy, a good sound doctrine guy. And so, all right, it's been a privilege coming to y'all tonight from Oklahoma City. And we'll check in with you all at a later date.